All righty, everybody. You are now in the second half of the program. As I teased the other day, I've got Jason Pattison. Let me make sure I got this right. He covers the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a contributor with Pig Trail Nation out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I'm always grateful for anybody to want to come on the program here. Now I got you on here. Hey, Jason, how you doing today, man?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Got a little caught up in traffic. I'm out of Nashville. We've had some of that. You may be having that too. Some of that hurricanes hit us.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a taste of the this side of the western side of the tropical storm / hurricane. And honestly, I'm grateful for the rain because it's been pretty stinking dry over here. But,
yeah, right.
But yeah, I'll take anything we can get over here.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. Yeah, kind of brought this humidity down a little bit too here out of Nashville area. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Did you go to University of Arkansas?
Yep, sure did. Went to the University of Arkansas, and great work over there that they do with their journalism department. Yeah. Wrote for the Arkansas Traveler in their sports column for about a year, and then after that got a great opportunity with Hogville, and that's the writing side of Pig Trail Nation with KNWA, which is the NBC affiliate out of Fayetteville here. And there was a little bit of an opening there, and there hasn't been too much, as far as coverage goes. There's been, here and there, but got the opportunity to be able to do more coverage with the Kansas City Chiefs on top of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and so just been very, very blessed with that.
That's awesome. That is awesome that they cover the Chiefs. I would have loved to have covered a pro team, but then again, I've got heavy opinions. They might kick me out because I can be critical sometimes. Man, I'll throw you under the bus if I think it's worthy of doing so, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And, it's funny thing, timing, I did not have a clue. I've been very busy that they're playing the Cincinnati Bengals this week, and I know Bengals are 0-1, but what are your thoughts about all this trash? This is turning into a rival,
Yeah, it kind of is. And, whenever you have a couple teams that meet each other once in AFC championship game, multiple times during the AFC playoffs,
yeah,
those one and dones really help maturate just really good rivalries. Now, you have a lot of great rivalries, with, between the Steelers and also the Ravens and also the Bengals. And those three seem to kind of circulate as far as heavy hitting, real defensive matchups. But then you have, Kansas City, whenever Pat Mahomes, when he's on, there's not a lot of teams that can stop him. And that's kind of what I see coming into this weekend.
Yeah. And, wow, I wrote down some questions I wanted to ask you. Now, that's funny that all this kind of worked out. Xavier Worthy, great opening game. I said this on my program Monday. I don't know if you got a chance to watch, but I thought that the Chiefs and the Ravens were the two most prepared teams to start the season. I'm out of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these teams, even Cincinnati last week, they look like they're still in preseason form. These guys look great. Xavier Worthy, 2 touchdowns right off the bat. Man, do you see him playing a bigger role in this offense than perhaps a Rashid Rice, or is he just going to be a gadget guy?
I think that, I think Andy Reid and Matt Nagy are going to bring him on slowly. Now, There's not many times that you see a rookie first touch is a touchdown.
Yeah, that's a great point.
There's not many times that happens. Now, I was up at training camp last month, and the one thing that I noticed, and I got to talk to Carson Wentz a little bit about too, is that the noticeable part about this offense is the speed. Because as anybody knows, speed kills. That's what the NFL circulates around. That's why it is such a different animal than college football, is because of the speed. But when you look at Kansas City's offense, the speed is different than the normal speed of the NFL. Isaiah Pacheco looked like he was in midseason form. coming out of training.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that he was trying to prepare for. He worked off season with his hands with the wide receivers coach, knowing that he was going to be more of an every down back versus a first and second down back. And that was the part of the process that the offense wanted to see him come into, on top of, Rashee Rice. Some didn't think that he was going to be seeing the field some this year because of the offseason turmoil that he had.
Yes.
As Xavier was kind of an insurance plan. Turns out that not only was he an insurance plan, he was a guy that can complement Rashee Rice on that other side. And they thought, and that was why they were able to part ways with Kadarius Toney so easily too, because he's a guy that
very good point.
He can really, he has got soft hands. That's one of the big things that I noticed that some of the reporters were talking about during training camp was how soft his hands were, how well he was able to, cradle the ball whenever, depending on, no matter where Pat threw it, which Pat's extremely accurate. I don't mean a homer about that, but whenever he's on, and I'm telling you, whenever this probably was the best place for Xavier Worthy to fall into.
Yeah.
Even though it was, at the late round, 32.
Yeah.
That honestly was probably the best scenario for him personally.
Yeah. Do you think Buffalo's going to regret making that trade?
Oh, most definitely. I think that they are going to, because the fact that they were trying to unload cap space so quickly, and to also trade out and trade back. Now, don't get me wrong. GMs are perceived as smart if you get out of a high draft pick, for instance, and you move back a little bit. Maybe you get 2 for 1, for instance.
Yeah.
You get a 2 maybe this year, or a 3 this year, and then maybe a 2 or a 3 next year. Yeah, or maybe a 4. Those are smart picks. But at the same time, whenever you have a guy that was the fastest 40 time in NFL Combine history, and you pass, give me a break.
Have you seen him get laid out in practice where there were any concerns?
No, not off the top of my head. I think more or less that he was been more known for more the acrobatics. I mean, that was one of the things coming out of training camp, that he was more of a YouTube darling with some of the catches that he had been making. And it seemed like his practice was an ESPN top 10, it seemed like, almost weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, he really, I think he lit up Alabama last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
This time last year, second week of the college football season. Who do you compare Worthy to? Who past or present, who would you compare a guy like Xavier Worthy to?
He reminds me a lot of Deshaun Jackson.
Okay, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deshaun Jackson, I think it's the build. I think it's the ability to basically route run a quarterback out of his shoes. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't quite have the Hunter Renfrow type cuts. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to because of the speed, because all he needs is about a 2-yard separation off to the left or the right, and he's going to be 5 yards behind you before you know it.
Woo! Man, this is going to be fun. Any thoughts, anything from camp on what is this guy's name? Let me make sure. Bengals cornerback Taylor Britt says he only runs straight. Other words, he's not a good route runner. I think he was throwing a little, like the kids will say, younger kids will say, shade at him. Is there, I kind of know what you're going to say, but I like to ask it for the audience. Anything back from Chiefs camp?
I don't know. I found, you have him. You also have the stuff with the Raiders and throwing shade towards Kansas City as well.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. And I felt like the response from Patrick was appropriate. We're going to handle that on the field.
Yeah. He bookmarked that in his head, didn't he, Jason?
Well, I mean, as if he didn't need any more fuel, because let's face it, guys like him get their own, they make their own fuel.
Yeah.
You saw Jordan and whenever they did, The Last Dance.
Yes.
those sorts of guys that have that A-type personality that have climbed the summit multiple times,
Yeah.
you start to see the commonalities in some of them. Now, Patrick's more of a personable guy, that it seems, than maybe some others that have been superstars of the past.
Yeah.
I think that he is part of that trend that is more relatable than maybe some others. You don't look up to, you look to.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, he puts the receipts in his head, and he makes sure that whenever that rolls around,
Yeah.
he doesn't even need to really kind of look back. He just looks over there. He spots that guy. He starts to do this a little bit, and it's over.
What? See, this is good insight. I can't see that on TV. I did watch that quarterback documentary on Netflix. Him and Max Crosby's had a few words over the years, to say the least. Let me ask you about this second round left tackle. That was my biggest concern coming in.
Yeah.
Kingsbury Samonthia. I don't know if I'm butchering that last name. Second round pick. I think he's out of BYU. What's your thoughts on his first game?
Yeah, it's Kingsley Tuma'a, I think is what it is. Anyway.
I'm gonna write that one down. I'll have to listen to you say that 1,000 times before I get it.
That was one of the big question marks coming into training camp, is shoring up both of those tackle spots, because let's face it, they were getting their lunch eaten with holding penalties, false start penalties all through the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were able to win a Super Bowl and still have all of those problems really gives credit to the skill position and the defense.
Yeah.
In making sure that even though, a good team can honestly be set back and lose a couple of games just from those alone.
Yes.
They were able to overcome them.
We saw it in the Super Bowl against Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting, is that the question mark coming into the season was, can Kingsley, because let's face it, they work Kingsley out at guard, and they also work Kingsley out at tackle.
Okay.
And so you weren't quite sure where Andy was going to come to a final, say, so, hey, this is where he's probably going to be best for us. And whenever I was at training camp, he was at guard. They finally worked, and they were working him back and forth, but they finally settled on tackle. And I honestly think that's going to be his home probably for the next 10 years.
Wow. He looked good. Pro Football Focus is pretty hard on rookies.
Yeah.
And he was like 60. Let me get, hold on. 60th. And that's not bad going against the Baltimore Ravens. Okay. He was against above a lot of veterans out there. So I'm, Andy Reid, I know he played offensive line. I'm so surprised that they've been able to makeshift this line the way they have. And of course, Brett Veach, like you said, he does a good job, man. He
does.
Drafting these guys.
And whenever you get a guy like Creed back into the line, which him and Joe Thuney, that probably is the best guard center combo in the NFL. And then you add in Wayne Morris, you add Kingsley in, and Juwan Taylor. Those whenever you put that together, there's probably about 30 teams in the NFL that would say, I'll scrap my 5, I'll take those 5. And it's nothing against the 5 that you have. It's just that those 5 are so good in protection. So that way that Patrick's able to, move outside of the pocket whenever he needs to, or scramble, straining a little extra, that half a second to a second, to get him a little bit more time to move and give those receivers to get 5-10 yards more downfield, so he's able to make that strike and really gut a defense. That's what you started to see last week, like you said, with both teams looking in midseason form.
That's true, man. And we are 1 year removed from that Detroit game.
Yeah.
Last year, when Juwan Taylor was lining up off sides.
Yeah.
Well, he's had that he had his stance messed up. He was 1 foot in front of the other, and he's like, "We're gonna have to fix that." And they did.
Speaking of 1 foot, you think that the Ravens might take that foot back with Isaiah Likely? That was so tough.
My God! Yes.
So tough to watch.
Yeah, and they would have went for 2, but Kansas City, man, they seem to rise to the occasion. Any thoughts on the Chargers' first game? As we talk about the West for a little bit, what do you think about their debut? Looks like they got a pretty good running game.
They do. I was wanting to see exactly how much of a distraction the offseason has been for Jim Harbaugh on how well he was able to focus in with his current team. Because let's face it, whenever you've got an NCAA investigation coming down, regardless of you're not part of that program anymore,
right,
it still has an effect on you. It looks like it hasn't to a point. I don't know if they're going to vacate wins, if they're going to strip, Michigan of a national championship. Don't know yet.
Well, I hope not. Wow.
I don't. I hope not too.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, I mean, you would have to think that it does affect a person a certain way because of so much time and effort they put into it.
That's interesting. Yeah. But
with his relationship with Justin Herbert, you could start to see that it's already maturating from game one, and that could really spell some bad news for Raiders and Broncos fans, because if the Chargers are able to kind of take that next step, if you will, they may not be on the Kansas City level yet.
Okay.
But they are definitely shoulders above the Broncos and also the Raiders at this point.
Okay. Yeah. And I understand the other two, you got a rookie quarterback there in Denver.
Yep.
And of course, the Raiders are with Minshew. But the Raiders beat Kansas City up in Kansas City last year.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what happens when you get interdivisional rivalry games.
Yeah.
Just like, for instance, Razorbacks that I cover, Arkansas and LSU. LSU seems to have a great squad, but whenever LSU comes to town, it's some reason it turns into a rock fight, and you have no idea which way the hell it's going to happen, which way it's going to turn out. And that's the same with Kansas City and Las Vegas, which really is weird to say. Not Oakland or LA, but Las Vegas.
They seem to play better in Kansas City than they do down in Las Vegas. As far as this matchup with KC.
Hey, let's look at it for just a second. Some of these players have played longer in Kansas, played more games in Kansas City than they have in Las Vegas.
That's interesting. That is it, because it's a fairly new stadium.
Yeah.
Do you still have Kansas City? I know it's just one game. You still think they're the team to beat, though, in the West?
Well, the way I always put it, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And nobody beat the man yet. So that's kind of the way I see it. But, this game this week against the Bengals really, I think, it's going to be smelling of a rout.
Wow. You think they're going to blow out Cincinnati?
I think they do. And this is why I don't understand why the wise guys have got them as a 3.5 point. Kansas City's a 3.5 point dog at home. First off, Joe Burrow's having still a difficult time with that wrist that he just had surgery on last year.
So you don't believe him? He says it's okay.
I don't. Okay. Take a look at a couple of the videos that are on the sidelines during the game last week. He was having a hard time holding a water bottle.
Man.
So you no matter what type of therapy you can get from in a 7-day window, there's not a lot you can do with that. That takes anywhere between 20 and 45 days to really start to, once you get that game prep and that game action on that wrist, it's going to take a little while for that thing to become more accustomed to, what's going to happen during a game.
Wow. It's good insight, man. I thought it was just because he's got Higgins down. He's got Chase laid out the whole training camp.
And I heard Peyton Manning say this during Manning Cast.
Okay.
And was talking a little bit about, guys getting into training camp, getting the contract out of the way and getting the reps in. I think that's one of I know that, listen, Jamar Chase had 6 targets, caught 6 balls for 62 yards.
Yeah.
That's fine, but let's face it, that's not Jamar Chase numbers.
No, it's normally double that.
Yeah, exactly. So that tells me that the time that he spent trying to negotiate this contract, which happened damn near the day of the game,
yes,
did affect his play on the field. did affect his timing on with Joe Burrow. Also affected the timing on his routes, on his cuts, because these guys, listen, defensive backs in the NFL know exactly where these guys are going to be just about darn near every play.
Yes.
And if you don't know exactly where you need to be at that point, they're going to beat you to the spot. And it didn't happen, but he also wasn't productive. So that means that he wasn't getting a lot of yards after catch. He was just getting taken down right after he caught it.
Wow. You know something? I just got a feeling they're just not going to roll over. But if you're saying that risk is really bothering him like that, this could be a route. Mm-hmm. But they play him hard, though, and but you're right, though. The more I think about it, man, it's the fact that it's early. Cincinnati don't start off well traditionally. They lost. They went 0-2 a couple of years ago, got to the AFC Championship game anyways.
They didn't score until a minute, and what was that? I had it written down here. I think it was a minute and 9 seconds left in the third quarter before they put their first points on the board against a new head coach in Gerard Mayo and the Patriots. Now you walk into the world champion's house, and you're only a 3.5-point dog. That's what I didn't understand on why exactly that line was so close, because maybe they're looking at past games and stuff like that. But this coming Sunday is a lot different than it was the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm starting to think they're probably gonna end up covering that. They're gonna cover that point spread. So you're about to go on the air at the same time. I go on live at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Plug your shows, man.
Hey, man. Yeah. So I cover Arkansas Razorback football with hogville.net. You guys can go over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Go on every Thursday night at Torchy's Tacos here in Rogers. And we do Arkansas football report up there live on Thursdays. And then each Saturday home game in Fayetteville, we also do a show at Torchy's Tacos in Fayetteville with former Razorback Marshall Foreman, which played at Arkansas and also was a player and a coach in Arena League football. So
nice.
Great insight there. Go over, follow our YouTube channel. Also hogville.net, where you can find all of our shows and written content, which is always free. And all of our written content is also on Pig Trail Nation at knwa.com.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, real quick, who's Arkansas playing this week?
Arkansas has the UAB Fighting Trent Dilfer Dragons.
Oh, Trent Dilfer's coach. Oh, okay. That may be a game for a little while.
Arkansas is a 24.5-point favorite going in. So I don't know.
Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last week.
Yeah, and A&M is still kicking themselves for losing at home to Notre Dame.
Yes.
Still this week, but I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I don't know. Arkansas's got a lot to prove after that 2 overtime loss last week to Oklahoma State.
Oh, man.
It was a gut wrencher. They had the game won for 3 quarters. Then they had to try to re-win the game 3 more times in regulation time, and then re-win it again in overtime. And whenever you have 4 fumbles, turn it over twice, have a pick 6, and you're still tied at the end of regulation.
Is that coach in trouble this year?
No. I'll be honest with
you.
No.
He's good? Okay.
As long as they hit 6-6, he'll be back next year.
Okay. All right. It's always food for thought. Jason Patterson, everybody. Hey, man, I appreciate it, and I'll definitely bring you back on, especially as Kansas City goes throughout the season.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Robert.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Take care.
All right, everybody. That's the end of the program, and tune in tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have the Mad New Yorker, and we will break that game down. We will break down Chiefs-Bengals. I think it'll be tight, but he's probably right. I do think Chiefs will pull away from them, but I do think the Bengals are really going to play hard. Good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place here on the Real Sports Scope.